we have a pond back behind the house that is loaded with fish. One of the things we love to do is have children come over and have a fishing experience. Oftentimes it's their very first fishing trip and they're guaranteed to have success, which means it's something they're going to enjoy their whole life because they had success the very first time. But I hear countless stories of people that don't like to fish, and when you ask them why not, usually it involves some trip when they were a kid or multiple trips when they were a kid that were long and boring and they didn't catch anything. But you know, the people that don't have success and end up giving up, that's a real sad thing. But what's even more sad is when it happens in fishing for men. When laypersons and pastors have tried outreach activity only not to have success and end up giving up. And so, please don't give up. And please don't be critical of what others are doing as they attempt to be fishers of men and to work with Jesus to reach lost and dying souls. D.L. Moody, the great American evangelist, ran into some criticism of his outreach efforts. And he said, "It is clear you don't like my way of doing evangelism. You raise some good points. Frankly, I sometimes do not like my way of doing evangelism. But I like my way of doing it better than your way of not doing it." Now, like Moody, we certainly see room for improvement in our evangelistic approaches. But we keep trying to make it better. I'm going to take just a few moments to share briefly what we've seen work over the last several years. I've been in ministry for 24 years. 12 of those were in full-time traveling evangelism, itinerant evangelism, and 12 as a settled local pastor. And as a pastor, we often might not do as large of meetings, but we certainly can do outreach activities that work to bring people to church, to win them to Christ, and keep them in the church family. One of the things that we focus on is pre-work activities, and that can be as basic as inviting people for certain holiday Sabbaths, like Easter or Christmas or Mother's Day. And really, pre-work is a church being a church. So that when you reach the time for evangelism, the church members have made contacts and have friends and family that are ready to be invited to come out to an event. Another thing that we often do is make our midweek program evangelistic. We're doing that right now. We call it Reunite. We come for supper at 5:40. We eat together. We sing a couple of songs, and then we have prayer and divide into multiple classes, all going on at the same time. And we end up with guests. Even right now, we have guests from the community attending some of these programs. And then when we get right down and ready to start our outreach meetings, oftentimes we will do a program on health. We did Blue Zone Health. That's a program that we developed to go along with the Blue Zone presentations that talk about the longest living demographic areas, geographic areas in the world. And originally there were 3. The men of Sardinia, Italy, the women of Okinawa, Japan, and the longest living men and women, Loma Linda, California, the Adventist community there. So it allows us to talk about Adventists in a positive way, but not only focus on Adventists. And it's a great bridge. We had, when we did that in Washington State and Renton there, this Seattle area, we had a retired nurse practitioner. She came out, attended those meetings. We then invited her to the Prophecies of Hope series that we did. That's the flyer for it as well. And she came and became part of the church family along with some of her family members. We've often as well done a creation evolution program. It was titled, Did Darwin Murder God? And we've also done archaeology, amazing discoveries in lost cities of the dead, that kind of thing. Well, then we get to our prophecy series. What we're doing now is we go 4 weeks, 3 nights a week. We go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can also do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we do 2 topics a night, and we have refreshments in between. And it seems to work very well. There's some advantages of this. One of the things that was kind of a downer about public evangelistic meetings over the years is going 5 or 6 weeks, 5 nights a week, it can really wear the church family down. Okay? But when you go 3 nights a week, that's a big difference than 5 or 6 nights, isn't it? Absolutely. And so that's something that we found that has worked well for us. And we tried shortening it to 3 weekends. We tried doing shorter programs. And we discovered if people are already somewhat familiar with what Seventh-day Adventist Christians believe, that they can be reaped in a shorter series. But if they end up getting invited by a friend, or they end up coming from the advertising and they're not already somewhat familiar with Adventists, we discovered if we go less than the 4 weekends, that the percentage of people that actually make a decision and end up attending church on Sabbath and being part of the church family goes down drastically. So we go 4 weekends, 3 nights a week, 2 topics a night. That's 24 topics. And I prefer to start in a hall, a neutral venue, when I have the chance to do so. I mean, we can start in our churches, and in some parts of the country, a crowd will come out pretty well to an Adventist church. But not only are we trying to reach the people our church members are already working with, but when we do broader advertising, we're trying to reach the community at large, particularly secular people. And there are some people that will not walk inside of a church building, but would come to a neutral venue. That happened in Colorado when we had a man coming, and come to find out when it was time to go over to the church, he didn't initially want to come. And I had a conversation with him. He had come out because we were in a neutral hall. Come to find out, he owned a bar in town. It wasn't just a bar, it was a topless bar. It wasn't just, it was the strip club in town. No wonder he didn't feel comfortable coming to the church. Long story short, he's now a Christian counselor, and that only strip club in Fort Collins, Colorado, was closed down, no longer had one in the town, and it became a Christian outreach center. So evangelism works, and I'm so glad at least there we got an auditorium, a hall, and didn't start in the church. So again, people will come to the church, but you reach a different group sometimes in a hall. One of the things we also like to do is have round tables. We don't always do this, but we oftentimes do. And the round tables allow us to have a church member leading out at each table. And they'll give out the handouts, take them through a little study in between the topics, and do the decision cards that we do in our meetings right there at the table, and even review for baptism when it comes time for that. And what we've discovered is our church members feel like they're more involved, and they tend to attend the meetings better when we do it that way because they realize there's actually something for them to do. And it gives value to them. And then one of the things that we've done, not with the greatest of success yet, but we're still working on it, is we're encouraging the tables to continue as small groups after the meeting. Perhaps combine. We've got to go back to the drawing board on that one. We haven't been as successful on that as we want. But what we're seeing is relationships developing right through the meetings and continuing long afterwards. And then we go right back to our Reunite class, our midweek study, and we will put in a class that's specifically for the folks that went to the series and for them to invite their friends and family to. And then we'll hold it not only on Wednesday night with Reunite, with the food and the singing and dividing for classes, but we'll also run it during Sabbath school time at the church in an effort to try to get our newer people in the habit of coming both to midweek service and to Sabbath school. I want to share with you here in closing. It was an experience that changed my life. It was the first day of spring break. I was 16 years old, and I had a one-car accident. I was the driver. There was no passenger. I went through the windshield of the car face first. And as they were putting me under for surgery, this is a picture that they took. And it was a life-changing experience for me, a major wake-up call. And as a result of circumstances from that accident, my family heard about a Bible prophecy seminar in a neighboring town. And we ended up going. I'm here because local pastors like you motivated their local churches to keep doing outreach. And I want to say thank you to all the evangelistic pastors. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for continuing to share the message. I'm here because of that. And keep fishing. If it's not working for you, keep trying new approaches. Try different bait. You will find what works for you and have a great catch for the kingdom of God.